Madison, Wisconsin. 1968 was tumultuous at the University of Wisconsin, in student neighborhoods in downtown State Street. Tensions rose as the Vietnam War expanded and the political fabric stateside continued to unravel. Marches and rallies were likely to result in clashes with the police. A forecast for demonstrations could easily predict clouds of tear gas and flurries of flying objects. 50 years later, those days are coming back in a nostalgic way. June 14 to 16 at the Madison Reunion. Still vibrant hippies and activists, some into trekking and others toting extra pounds, will revisit those wild times. The event, billed as a party with a purpose, features free and ticketed events ranging from concerts to panel discussions about the 1960s, and how aging baby boomers can navigate and shape current times. Former Vice President Dick Cheney, a UW grad student in 1968, is likely to take a pass on this. But other illustrious former students are on the bill. Hollywood producer Jim Abrahams, a student in the 1960s, journalist Jeff Greenfield, B.A., 1964, novelist Peter Straub, B.A., 1965, rock musician Boz Scaggs, a student in the 60s, and others. Just as unusual as the lineup of corporate sponsors, which ranges from the Wisconsin Historical Society to the high-end Edgewater Hotel in MG. Although the Madison Reunion may seem to have niche market appeal, several travel experts say it directly taps an affluent demographic sweet spot. Targeting boomer tourism, Judy Randall of North Carolina-based Randall Travel Marketing is known nationally for her trend-spotting savvy. The Madison Reunion, she says, plays to gypsy baby boomers, people, basically, who are collecting Social Security, have the mortgage paid and the kids raised. They love road trips and are literally gypsying around the United States. For them, it's a combination of seeing old friends and hanging out at cool places. It's a continuing trend we're just starting to figure out, so there's at least another 10 years of this. Randall says these travelers tend to avoid major metros and prefer smaller towns that are walkable. They're not as much into shopping as they were, they're still trying to get rid of stuff, but they like quality local dining in pretty and fun places, offering light but not physically demanding activities. Madison fits the bill. It ranks high on many, most livable cities lists for its vibrant culture and dining scene. It's an easygoing white-collar city wedged among four beautiful lakes less than 2 interstate hours from Milwaukee and Chicago, with state parks close at hand. The University of Wisconsin, an academic powerhouse, is in the middle of town. Bill Geist, whose Zeitgeist travel marketing firm is based in Madison, says, roughly half the nation's wealth is in the hands of boomers, who are at the point in life where they want to spend what they've accumulated on experiencing things. As much as sitting on a beach, they want to see concerts and festivals. Geist, an Illinois native, says the city's 1960s heritage is powerful stuff when it comes to allure, and Madison Reunion shows strategic marketing. Boomers remember this was their life, going to concerts and rallies. Unlike Gen Zers and millennials, who are job and family focused, boomers lived for the moment here. Madison Reunion is recapturing that, an event unique enough to say, hey, let's do Madison. The Temptations are playing the UW Memorial Union on June 14th, Steely Dan and the Doobie Brothers take the stage at city-owned Breese Stevens Field on June 16th. The bands have no direct connection to Madison, but are culturally tied to the 60s and 70s. I really don't know how things came together for all this, says Geist, who is not involved with the Madison Reunion. But I'm impressed. Exploring the big picture, Madison Reunion organizer is Ben Sidran, a longtime fixture on the Madison music scene, an award-winning keyboardist, broadcaster, writer, who moved from Racine, Wisconsin, to Madison in 1961, and who was in a bar band with fellow students, and future pop stars, Steve Miller and Skaggs. Sidran played and recorded with Miller and others professionally after getting an English literature degree, but remained based in Madison, where he met his wife, Judy, in 1965. Their home is close to campus. Sidran says, "We travel the world, and in Europe we met people after gigs who had been in Madison. There was lots of curiosity about what happened to the place and to us. The idea of a reunion of people in Madison in the 60s took hold 3 years ago. In the 1960s, Sidran says, I was primarily a jazz musician, dramatically different from someone in Students for a Democratic Society, or who was a theater major. I started thinking about a conference in the middle of a reunion as kind of a destination for everybody who wanted to know about that state of mind. It would be a way of getting in touch with something we all remembered. What we're planning is like the 60s, back in the time in that you couldn't experience more than 20% of what was all going on." Sidran is center stage at the Memorial Union June 15th, with Skaggs and Grammy-nominated folk singer and Madison native Tracy Nelson. Through old school ties and affinity groups, his Madison reunion mushroomed. The event includes 32 panels over 3 days, covering everything from politics and media, to film, the environment, women's studies, comedy and literature. No-charge reunion events staged across Madison include free concerts at the Memorial Union Terrace and a film series. Among those in Sidran's corner is Madison Mayor Paul Soglin, B.A. with honors in history, 1966, 1972 law school grad. Soglin, an activist who represented a student ward on the Madison City Council in the 1960s, became mayor in 1973 and has remained so for most of the following decades. He is now running for governor in the 2018 Democratic primary. Lessons learned. Lifelong learning. David Moranis has an unusual perspective on the reunion. At the Washington Post, he won a Pulitzer Prize for political reporting and wrote the best-selling biographies first in his class about Bill Clinton and Barack Obama, The Story. Moranis also wrote They Marched into Sunlight, about the Vietnam War in 1967 and reactions it caused in Madison, where he grew up. At one point, he was a stringer for He Capital Times, covering high school sports and student riots. In some ways, he says, the 60s started around 1966 and went through 74, when Nixon resigned. When I was a UW freshman in 1967, the largest club on campus was the Young Republicans. There was a counterculture that was starting to build, but it wasn't overwhelming. That's mythology. Moranis dropped out of school to marry his then-girlfriend, Linda. They live in Washington, but relocate to their home in Madison every summer. I have plenty of good friends who make it fun and interesting. The city is not perfect, but is a great place in the summer. We call it Camp Madison. As a Madison Reunion speaker, he thinks he'll talk vaguely about journalism. Search for truth, the school's sifting and winnowing tradition. Is it real? Is it important now? Another journalist, author at a podium during the event will be New York native Peter Greenberg, B.A., 1972, travel editor for CBS News. The Emmy Award winner says, I owe my entire career to Madison. It shaped everything, my life, work, worldview and perspective, more than any other city. I got there in September 1967 and didn't know where I was. Why Madison? I had been accepted there, there were others I knew who had gone there, and it was 960 miles from Manhattan. I didn't know what a BA was. I was trying to find my way. The University of Wisconsin was the most active, engaged and violent campus in America, more than Berkeley and Columbia combined. I walked into the student paper there and already permanent clouds of tear gas were there. Life for me was never the same after. Greenberg now commutes between homes in New York and Los Angeles. Home is seat 3B, but says his heart is still on campus. I'm still 17 years old walking around the lake or trudging up Bascom Hill in sub-zero temperatures. Going there brings you back to what is important and what is real. I get back there 2 or 3 times a year, to lecture, hang out or find a flimsy excuse for doing my syndicated radio show there so I can attend a football game. On Madison's long quieted streets, you can still engage in intelligent discussions. And that still makes a difference in this polarized world. Details, www.madisonreunion.com. Madison then and no State Street hasn't physically changed much, but most bars, stores and shops from the 1960s and 70s are no longer there. Still in business in the downtown area, Paul's Books, the Portobello and Nick's restaurants, the Red Shed, Plaza, Church Key and Nitty Gritty tap rooms. The Memorial Union Rathskeller and Lakeside Terrace are unchanged. There are new high-rise housing complexes behind many downtown landmarks, and the effect is nostalgia-numbing. The Langdon Street frat houses in Mifflin, the 500 block of Mifflin Street, once a movement hotbed, are spruced up but look the same. For a feel of what Madison was like in the 1960s and 70s, leave downtown and head southeast out Williamson, Willie Street toward Shanks Corners, centered on Winnebago Street, and Atwood Avenue. The long hair and funky vibe is alive. Check the organic offerings at the spiffy Willie Street Co-op, spend an hour or two checking the used vinyl and CD bins at eclectic Sugar Shack Records. Catch a beer and live music at the Harmony Bar. See who's playing at the Barrymore Theatre, a tour stop this year for the likes of John Sebastian of the Lovin' Spoonful, Leo Kotka, Hot Tuna and Justin Hayward of the Moody Blues. The East Madison Scene coalesces annually for the Fête de Marquette Festival at Mild McPeak Park, July 12 to 15 this year. Watch for perennial local fave Tony Castaneda Latin Jazz Band there and at area clubs. Anywhere in Madison, keep your radio tuned to 89.9-FM, where community-funded Ward has been airing eclectic music and talk shows since 1975. Read or share this story, https://usat.ly/2rexpear.